Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to an NFL London special of Inside the Five, a UK NFL podcast. We are your hosts, Dan,
Nathan,
and Nima.
Gentlemen, a pleasure as always.
Welcome.
We thought we'd do a little quick episode this week just because we're really excited, is the bottom line, to be honest. I'm just really excited. We're going to the NFL game
tomorrow.
On Sunday. On Sunday, tomorrow. Quite literally tomorrow. And we're just brimming with excitement. It's a great tradition now. You know, it's been going on for a number of years. We've all been to one as well previously, so we thought we could sort of share a little bit of, if you're not from the UK and you've never been to the games, and maybe you're based in America or in a country that's not had the NFL yet, we sort of can maybe chat about what it's like to go. You know, because it's a very different sporting experience from what maybe I've recognised or I was familiar with growing up with, like British football or like rugby or
seeing NFL on telly even.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's just a totally different experience, really. So we're just going to chat about that. To be honest, I was fortunate enough to go to the first one back in 2007. God. I went with my cousin and my friend Ben. It was drove down to Wembley. Ben Doyle, yeah, Ben Doyle. We both went down.
Who was playing?
It was the Giants and the Dolphins. It was an epic game, 13-10.
I feel like the Dolphins have played it a few times now.
Yeah, I mean, this is so like the Dolphins are playing tomorrow, right? So
Yeah.
I'm seeing the Dolphins for the second time,
Yeah.
and I'm seeing the Jags for the second time.
Yeah, they always play though, don't they?
Well, yeah, technically.
You got to see Eli Manning though, right?
I did, and actually, do you know what? It was the same year that he beat Brady in the unbeaten season.
Oh,
so
you
technically,
can't beat
that's the main takeaway.
You saw the Super Bowl winning team.
I saw the Super Bowl winning team, and I saw Eli Manning. You know, who in my humble opinion is going to be a Hall of Famer, as much as the critics will have their say. Yeah, exactly. Right. So yeah, I mean, let's get into previous game experiences. So I've sort of spoken about the initial games, like. The first game, I remember going there. The main thing I'll say about the atmosphere change is that, and I don't mean to criticise British sports here, it's a very, very friendly and like excitable atmosphere.
Yeah.
And the main differences I noted from the first time I went, admittedly I was younger, to the last time we went, not last year, whenever it was pre-COVID or whatever the hell it was.
2019, I think we went.
Is the difference in the scale of the production that they put on for the games. Because when I went in 2007, I remember rocking up to Wembley and it looked normal. Like, it was just like you got out of the car, you walked in. The stadium, obviously, it's a very immense thing to see. Is the Wembley Stadium.
The old Wembley as well?
No, it was the new Wembley.
I can remember when old Wembley became new Wembley.
Old Wembley was knocked down in like the end of the 90s.
Okay,
I think.
fair.
Yes, I can't remember when that was, but it was definitely new Wembley. But you got out your car, you walked in, it looked normal. You wouldn't have known an NFL game was on until you were actually inside the stadium. Whereas like the last time we went, I remember coming out. What station did you come out to get to Wembley?
We came out of Wembley.
I wasn't at that game.
Well, whichever station you come out where you've got the long walk up to Wembley.
And
I remember coming out of there and just seeing banners and stalls and shirts and like crowds and crowds of people. And I remember being like, wow, like the hype is so different now.
They have a launch parade now in Oxford Circus and stuff. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
because I came out of Oxford Circus station, and it was a couple of years ago actually, but like I remember just seeing people in like a sea of shirts, and I was like, oh wow, cool, this is really taking off now, which is good. It's good to see. But yeah, it's that's crazy to think that like no one was. It was just like a normal day, because now you can't move. Like there's so many people.
And the main thing was that I remember at the game, midway through the game, on the big scoreboard, they posted like being like, we just want to give a big shout out to all the fans for selling out Wembley, and then they threw a figure up where I was like, that's not maximum capacity for Wembley. Whereas now, like, you had an absolute man, Nima, trying to get hold of them tickets. I like when we were in the group chat and you were just like, who wants tickets? I've got them. I need to buy them right now, or they're gone. They're going to be gone.
There's less tickets this year as well, because it's not at Wembley, it's at the Tottenham ground. So the
queuing system was messed up. Like the online queuing system, I had 8 different tabs open across 3 laptops and different browsers.
Man's an expert.
It's really funny to think that like NFL is being played honestly like less than
a mile
3
away?
miles.
Yeah?
No, I mean, less than 3 miles away from this house that we're in right now. So.
And some of the features that are included in the performance and all of that we'll be able to discuss later in the show. And to go back to your point about there being less games, the reason the lack of sellout for the 2007 game, what I thought was surprising, was that was the only game. That was the only one you were getting tickets for. They didn't do a run. They did one game in the UK, and that was it.
Well, they're trying it out with other American sports. Like I went to the Boston Celtics versus the 76ers at the O2, and that was just one game that they played, and they were like, oh, we're going to bring the NBA over to see what it's like, and my friend Sean, who's a fellow NFL fan and a listener, he offered me a ticket, and he was like, let's go, and it was sick. That's I think that kind of thing, just you need to have an initial interest, and if that sells out, then they build on it. And I think we're at a point now where, is it the 10th year now? Oh no, it's more than 10 years.
13 years.
Well, yeah, because it was 2007, so it's way longer than 10 years.
I'm being an idiot. I'm not.
We're musicians, not mathematicians.
Yeah, I can't count past 4. It's crazy the how it's grown, and now they're talking about like bringing it to Germany.
That would be great.
Following
that's a great fan base to tap into.
They love they love their live sports.
Go to Germany to watch a game.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like football in Germany, the supporters are amazing. Like the fans of football teams, and then as in association football, not American football, but they're incredible. So they've really taken to NFL and stuff, and I know that they had their own league. I don't know if they still. I've not looked.
I'm
into
almost certain
European,
they've got their own league.
But they love that stuff, and they come over, and the nearest game to them is obviously coming here. So
there's a German QB, I think, that's also kind of potentially hitting college, or has hit college. I can't remember his name, but.
Seahawks signed a German linebacker through the international pathway called Aaron Duncan.
What's weird is that when so basically I got into NFL because my dad was a fan of it, right? And I've noticed this a lot, that there are still obviously leagues now, and there's places you can go play American football now. But what I hear from back in sort of the 70s and 80s is that American football was actually a lot more prevalent in terms of teams in which you can play even in Europe. I feel this is going to be sacrilege saying this. The captain of the England rugby team who won the World Cup,
Martin Lawrence.
Martin Lawrence. Yeah,
Martin Lawrence?
No, he was no.
What am I talking about? That's an actor. Martin Johnson.
I can't remember his name, but he's a giant guy. He ended up coaching the England rugby team. There's photos of him in an NFL gear.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, we apologise, British football fans.
It's the morning right now.
Yeah, it's early. And also, I didn't plan to talk about
Martin Johnson.
Martin Johnson.
I got the mine right. I know Lawrence Dallaglio loves it as well.
Yeah, actually, isn't Martin Lawrence the guy from Bad Boys 1 and 2?
Blue Streak. I love him too.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Yeah, that is Martin Lawrence.
Sorry,
I've just confirmed.
But anyway, that's a segue. That was a segue there. But yeah, he played for an American football team. My dad recalls teams in Leeds and stuff. I think Leeds had a Wildcats team and stuff like that.
Our housemate's partner,
her dad.
Her dad had a.
There's some really cool photos of him in some badass gear in the 80s and stuff. It looks sick. But anyway, going back to the sort of atmosphere and the changes and stuff like that, the final thing I want to say is the coolest thing that I enjoy, which I'm sad about that they're not going to really have at the Tottenham Stadium this year. Tailgates. I've always wanted to go to one. I know the one that we went to in London, it's not technically the same thing, but I just love that concept of fans meeting up.
It was a great
just
vibe.
In a car park. People whip up food. People serve drinks. You want to pay money to come in, you can. There's just we're here for football. Put all your differences and everything aside, and let's just focus in on a great game.
I wish I'd known more about tailgates, because I obviously didn't come with you guys to the tailgate because I wasn't around for the last game. But when I was in the States and I went to a game, I really wish I'd known, because there was a guy, because we went into the stadium and we were buying the drinks and food there, and it's obviously quite expensive, and especially over a 5-hour sort of period, you're you got to keep the alcohol levels high and the food levels high at the game.
You got to feel that passion.
And
in the
also,
game.
it was freezing.
Was that when you went to the Jets game? Sorry.
Yeah, so I went to watch the Jets versus the Vikings in New York. Well, technically in New Jersey, but
one-sided.
Don't talk about that. Actually, not. It was pretty equal for a good part of it, and then the Vikings sort of come through. But Sam Darnold was great.
What year was this?
This was in 2018.
You went for Dan's brother's wedding, right? So that was. You were there. Yeah,
Garcia was on our wedding, on our episode before his brother was getting married, and
But anyway, speaking of the Jets, this is sort of a nice sort of segue to get. So we've had a little preamble there, and I think it'd be sort of pretty good to get stuck into the topics for the day. So are you ready to do that, boys?
100p.
All right, let's go. Okay, so what I would like to do is we've had a previous game last week in London, and we've got a game tomorrow. And what we're going to do is we're just going to sort of discuss what we thought the last game was like, a couple of points about the two teams there. What's nice about this episode is we can kind of zone in on a couple of teams and really get into some specifics and some opinions on those teams and stuff like that. And I certainly have a lot to say about the Falcons. So yeah, basically, we'll start with the Jets-Falcons game. Before we get into the actual game itself, what I would like to say the most is that I'm really hoping that the ceremony that they gave for the Jets-Falcons game will be repeated tomorrow, because if you did not see that, that was mental.
It was incredible.
And going back to Nathan's point about we live so close to the Tottenham Stadium, is that like, if you didn't see the spectacle, for the American national anthem, they had, I've written her name down, Marisha Wallace. They had her on top of the Tottenham Stadium,
insane,
on the skywalk by the logo, belting the national anthem out, completely dwarfing Catherine Jenkins' attempt at the British national anthem
in a windy London,
and then right as you're coming up to the
strapped in as well.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean,
at first I was like, whoa.
Yeah, but it's they took precautions, and but it was epic. And then as the national anthem reached its climax, as it always does, the Jets were supposed to fly over the stadium, but prior to that, as I'm hearing it on my phone in the kitchen while I'm making some food, and then I start to hear a rumble, and I'm like, what's going on? And I go outside, and I just see these fighter jets whiz over our house,
literally,
and it was
right over our house.
I didn't see him. I was in my room, and I thought World War III was starting.
I was going to say, you certainly must have heard them, because they were loud, and then they reached the Tottenham Stadium, fly over it, and over the and the home of the brave, and then like all of this coloured smoke just exploded out of the stadium, and I was just like, oh my god, if that happens, I am going to lose it. I know obviously the patriot in me should be like, how dare you come to the UK and dwarf our national anthem, but I just can't help it. I do respect America's ability to come in and go, no, this is still our sport, I don't care where we are, this is still all about us. So all of those out of the way, let's get into the game itself.
Yes.
We watched the game on Sunday.
We did.
Nathan, you've caught up with highlights. The review of the game. Who would like to start talking about what they thought of the game? Maybe some sort of specifics about teams, stuff like that. Nima?
I thought it was less one-sided than I expected it to be.
Yeah.
It started off like with the Falcons obviously taking a bit of control and
doing what they always do.
The Jets seem slow off the mark consistently this year. And that's usually, I'm not going to say coaching as if Robert Saleh's trash. I'm saying coaching in the sense of they're still getting to grips with whatever schemes or whatever style of play they're bringing in new players, etc., etc., etc.
Also, Robert Saleh's a defensive coach as well, so you could argue
again, applying to all head coach, like offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator. I think they're just getting to grips. Not this isn't me disparaging the.
I think personnel is an issue as well, because the thing with the Jets, right, is that the main thing that they've decided to do this year with their team was when it came to the draft, instead of trading down and rolling with Sam Darnold and trying to build a team around him, they decided to start fresh at quarterback.
Yeah.
And when you do that, that means you have to take the one good pick you have and take that quarterback, and then you have to make do with the rest of the picks you have. I'm not saying they didn't pick poorly. I know they've got a great wide receiver.
Yep.
Quinnen Williams? Quinnen Williams is a real defense.
He's a defense.
But I'm saying in terms of it's not they don't have good players. They have a couple of players where I'm excited.
They took our first round pick as well.
So they did have another first round pick. Anyway, so they had two first round picks.
They took the running back.
And whoever it seems they've drafted, it's like it's a lot of rookies, it's a lot of young guys, and it's a new coach, new system. So they're always going to start slow.
Yeah.
And I don't mind teams starting slow because it's all about what you do. As Pete Carroll always says, can you win the game in the first quarter? No. So it's as long as you can come back and make a resurgence, which I think the Jets actually did, albeit against a team that is infamous for letting teams have one more crack at winning a game. My criticism of the Jets came down to getting the basics right, and I'm specifically referring to Zach Wilson. I'm not going to try and hate on him too much because I know he's a rookie and he's still figuring stuff out, but he, it felt like he was forcing throws, and yet he's got a great arm, and actually, the spiral that he has does, that's the only comparison to Aaron Rodgers that I do understand when people do that, is that the way his throwing motion, the spiral do seem to do that, but he had a couple of throws to the flat on easy screens that worked that he missed, and that's just disappointing for me.
Well, yeah, I was going to say something similar. It's not entirely his fault, but the plays that he's trying to force are not ideal for a shit team.
Yeah.
You can't just sling it downfield constantly and expect it to work. You need short and intermediate routes if you're going to do that. To have play designs that are like certain, getting a first down here, getting like 5 yards there, rather than just trying to constantly just throw the ball downfield and expecting the same result, and it's not going to work.
Yeah, and some of those throws as well, he was like literally throwing it at their ankles on the flat. And
they were poor throws. They were poor throws.
On top of that, I don't think they've got a strong enough running back to have a consistent run game either.
Or potentially a strong enough O-line as well.
I mean, they drafted Elijah Vera Tucker.
And he's been has he been good? I've not been following him, so I don't know.
Has he been injured? Is my thought.
While you look that up, I think that's why I'm trying not to be too critical of Zach Wilson. The only thing I will say is that he's the only QB in the league to have thrown an interception at least once a game. He's last in almost every important stat as a QB right now. I know he plays for the Jets, but it's
Wonder if he'll break Peyton's record.
Potentially.
Maybe.
Trevor Lawrence is also on pace for that at the moment.
He's on pace for like 40 interceptions or something. Confirmation, Elijah Vera Tucker is not injured, and he was PFF's or in the top 5 graded O-liners, offensive lineman in week 5. So
great. Okay, so he actually had a good game.
But I think that consistency is not present.
And I know it's unfair to compare QBs, because every QB takes the league differently. No one expected Justin Herbert to just walk in and be like, "Oh, I'm totally ready for this."
Yeah.
The best example I can refer to where I think it does make a point is that I feel like Joe Burrow going into the Bengals is the exact same situation that Zach Wilson is stepping into, historically losing franchise, going into a team where they had no choice but to take the best QB going, or the best QB they could get their hands on, and then figure out a team around him as the years go on.
Having some nice pieces. But,
Game 1 of Burrow's career. Do you remember that game? I can't remember who they were playing, but he had that 20-yard rushing touchdown. He threw for like nearly 300 yards in that game, and if Randy Bullock hadn't have sprained his ankle or whatever he did when he missed that field goal, they would have won that game. And I feel like
they had a touchdown. They had a touchdown
disallowed.
Yeah. It was a offensive pass interference.
I remember that Randy Bullock. Like, how
was it? AJ Green. AJ Green had a touchdown decline
it was offensive pass. It was offensive pass interference.
But they had some good pieces already at the Bengals. Like they had, I'm almost certain they had a decent running back.
Yeah, they have Joe Mixon. They had AJ Green. They had. I'm not saying that the Bengals team was just as terrible, but record-wise, they had the number 1 pick when they had Joe Burrow, so they can't have been that good.
Yeah.
And they're now, a second season. Now, obviously we don't know how Zach Wilson's going to pan out in season 2, but before Joe Burrow got injured, I think everybody was skeptical of him going in, and then everyone was like, "Oh, that was a weirdly good first game." And then for the rest of that first season before he got injured, everyone was like, "Oh, guy can ball."
Yeah.
And then now he's come back from the injury. Now he's like, "Okay, yeah, this guy can really ball."
Yeah.
One thing I will say is that he went to, as much as they're both terrible teams, or Bengals were terrible. They're not great, but do you know what I mean? They're better for him. New York is a bigger city, it's a bigger market, it's a lot more expectation.
Yeah.
They are Super Bowl winners, the Jets. They've been there before. They do have legendary players. They have done the big one before as a team. So the certain fans do have certain expectations.
Yeah.
Whereas the Bengals fans probably don't have anywhere near as much expect. Although saying that, I did go to a Jets game and all the Jets fans just seemed... I'm an Everton fan in normal football, and we're used to disappointment, and it felt like that they were just used to disappointment.
Yeah, 100%. And what I will say is, as much as the Bengals haven't won a Super Bowl, they've definitely been to Super Bowls, and the Jets Super Bowl was back when Joe Namath was around in the 60s, so it's it has been a minute, and obviously I know that's a bit hypocritical coming from a Packers fan, but we've won 2 Super Bowls in the last 30 years, so we can't really complain.
And also the Falcons were really good that game as well.
Yeah, and that actually leads me on to my next point perfectly. So the next thing I wanted to talk about was there any standout players for you? Nima, I'll go straight to you because I think I know what you're going to say.
Kyle Pitts.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it was his first sort of career game so far, and what is that? 9 receptions, 119 yards, a touchdown. And some of those catches were you had a lot of one-handers, kind of difficult throws, that sort of thing.
I think it was fortunate, the situation that he ended up in. Weirdly, as much as going into that game, a lot of the preamble was talking about how were Atlanta going to generate big plays on offense, considering they had Calvin Ridley out, they had injured, their numbers, their second wide receiver, whose name is escaping me right now, out. I'm pretty sure and then they lost Cordero Patterson in and out of the game, who's been a sort of weirdly their best sort of gadget player.
I actually was going to say I thought Cordero Patterson did really well.
And he has been delivering, but it was. I think that was the game that Arthur Smith certainly needed to see how much of an impact Kyle Pitts can make to an offense. Because the stat that blew my mind that I heard before the game was that in college, 69% of the time, Kyle Pitts was lined up at tight end, as he would be. He's a tight end. Since joining the NFL, 69% of the time he's been lined up at wide receiver. Now, it's not that he's not capable of doing that, but to me it does seem like quite a lot to ask a rookie player to then move to a completely different position at the end of the day. I know it's still receiver, but the roles are different, the matchups are different, the routes you run are slightly different. So it just seemed like a lot to just be like, oh yeah, come in and just start playing wide receiver.
It's a different role. You're so used as a tight end. You're used to either like blocking or receiving. Like that's like you do like it's sort of split. The duties are split. Whereas with wide receivers, generally your job is to run your route. Right?
Also, I feel like he'd just be more effective against linebackers who aren't really made. I mean, these days they're better at coverage, but like they're not out and out coverage players. They're supposed to do a bit of everything, bit of run stopping, bit of this, bit of that.
And that's the point that I think that's the main plus point of Kyle Pitts, is that all they were talking about in the draft is that like he's like a wide receiver at tight end. That's only useful if he's playing tight end. If he's playing wide receiver, then he's just a wide receiver. And there's definitely corners that can compete pace-wise and physicality-wise and certainly technique, because cornerbacks in the NFL, it's a hard position to get good at. So if you've been in the league as a cornerback for a couple of years, you need to be good. So it doesn't matter if you can make one-handed catches. If you're getting in front of him making plays, he's not going to be able to deliver.
And I think you're saying that as well. I think we agree on this, that it's not that he couldn't dominate corners. He definitely can. He's got everything he needs to. It's just too soon to kind of like throw him in at the deep end of like sort of the NFL secondary.
Also, why would you've got someone who plays a position that is, so, like probably the best at that position. Why would you move him to another position where he might not be as effective? What's the point?
Would you put like if they put Gronk at wide receiver every 70% of the time when he played for New England, yeah, he probably still would have been pretty brilliant.
Yeah.
But like we don't know that. Do you know what I mean? And and also the power of a tight end, the reliability of a tight end for a quarterback. Look at the relationship Brady and Gronk have. Yeah. And this leads actually quite nicely into my standout player, which should always be for the Falcons, was Matt Ryan. Again, I'm so sick of watching the Falcons just be terrible, and Matt Ryan just has to stand there and be like, oh, okay, I'll just throw for hundreds of yards and loads of touchdowns, and we'll throw it every time because we never want to run it for some reason, and I'll build a 20-point lead, and then I'll walk onto the sideline, and then we'll make a weird halftime adjustment where offensively we're worse and defensively we're just happy to bleed points, and it just seems so unfair.
You got to think there's something in there, because like it was the same as in the Super Bowl, like when they should have just been running the ball, just grinding that clock down, like just pound the rock, just get that clock down. You've got a certain lead. Why are you bothering to try and throw the ball, keep throwing the ball? Just even if the run's not working, just at least try different stuff. Waste that clock.
And what was interesting was that from my memory of the first half, the reason the plays were working so well is because they had a good run game. Cordero Patterson was hitting gaps. He was getting not huge 50-yard runs, 40-yard runs, 60-yard runs. He was getting quick first downs on a 1st and 10. He was getting a first down rush, and then after that he'd get a 5-yard chunk, and it sets the reason that you need both for the run and the passes, because they complement each other. And it seems to be the same every time with the Falcons. I just don't understand it, no matter who their coach is, when they come out in the second half. Now, what I will say in defense of the coaching is perhaps Matt Ryan audibles to throws more than I realised, because obviously I won't know that. I'll be able to see hand movements, but we don't know what they mean, as much as you can pretend. So yeah, it could be that. But just to quickly give you some stats, Matt Ryan was 33 of 45, 342 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. And in the last game that they lost, I'm pretty sure he threw for over 400 yards, 4 touchdowns, and no picks. You cannot ask a quarterback to do more than that.
But isn't that always the argument for Matt Ryan, is that he has all the stats on his sides, but none of the wins. None of the wins when they matter. You, as much as you can argue that he's doing everything right, clearly something's going on. Well, whether that's a defensive problem or a scheming problem, but I don't think they have a problem scoring points. As you can see,
they definitely don't.
So. There is an issue there somewhere.
It definitely comes a point where as well you can't like you said, he's doing everything he can possibly do. I felt the same with the Cowboys last year, the year before, with Dak's crazy numbers, but the team just sucking hard. Like, we had issues everywhere. But I guess with the Falcons, it depends. I don't know if it's their defense.
Well, I felt
injuries.
the same about the Seahawks last year. Like, like Russell Wilson was on course to throw 75 touchdowns after the first 3 games, but then our defense couldn't even stop anything.
Yeah,
just like this year.
And
enough.
to that point about stats and stuff like that, I actually checked that because I was interested, because it's like, there does seem to be some kind of mystical issue with the Falcons that they can't resolve.
Yeah.
Even this season, considering that their record is what, like, are they 1-4? 2 and something. They don't have a great record. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
So
2-3.
They're 2-3. So they're just under 500. They're 15th in the league in passing yards.
Okay.
They're 20th in points on offense. So it's like, as going to your point, it's like they're generating the stats. They're not generating the points. The weirdest stat, their defense is 12th in yards allowed. Right. That's pretty good. Just off top 10. What are they in points allowed? 27th. So there's got to be some kind of schematic area where, like, if you're able to hold people to limited yards near enough to the top 10 in the league, but you're almost last in conceding points, that doesn't make any sense to me.
They're top 10 in red zone conversions as well.
So this is why it goes back to the Matt Ryan thing, where I'm sort of like, I'm not saying he's devoid of fault, but it's like, it feels like he does enough of the job right now. Yeah, is he a Tom Brady, an Aaron Rodgers, a Russell Wilson, a Patrick Mahomes? I don't know. He certainly doesn't have the hardware, but he has got an MVP. Do you know what I mean? He was MVP of the year that he went to the Super Bowl, and I think, considering,
you got to think, had he won that Super Bowl,
if fans and buts, I guess, right?
So,
but anyway, I feel that's enough of a review of that game. I just wanted to talk about how much I think Matt Ryan is underrated. I think it's unfair. So, any Falcons fans out there, dirty birds, you've been done dirty. But I'm glad you beat the Jets. All right, moving on. So we can now talk about the upcoming game tomorrow. The game, NFL Sunday, live in our very faces.
Hyped.
Yeah, it's gonna be so great.
Oh my goodness.
First thing I want to kick off with.
Yeah.
Favorite thing about going to a live sporting event? It's a bit of a general thing.
Atmosphere.
Yeah.
Atmosphere. Also, very corny memories with friends. We're going.
Yeah, well, that is nice. Yeah.
We've got a big group of us going this year. I think it's 8 of us, and I think it's just gonna be a nice. After the last year and a half, it's gonna be a nice kind of.
Yeah, and I think we're making a day of it. We're gonna get up early, get food together, chat about the games.
If anyone anyone who's listening wants to meet up for a beer or whatever before the game to chat some.
Well, our social media will be. I'll basically be live streaming us the whole time. Essentially, I'll be posting videos, tweets. I'll be taking pictures of where we're sat. I'll take pictures of where we're getting beers, where we're getting food. So if if there are any UK listeners who are coming to the game, we'd love to meet you. We'd love to chat about NFL. That's literally all we're doing. I'm
the same with Nima. I just like the atmosphere, people coming together, celebrating the sport, the beers, the food. Just everything. Everything. Just the good times. There's not really anything bad to say about it. There's no fighting between fans. There's no.
Yeah, that was mine.
It's all really positive vibes, which is really nice to be around.
And I think, that's like, again, I don't want to sound like I'm just criticising British sports in general, but like, there is from I've been to a few NFL games in my life, both in the UK and in America, and. I've obviously seen videos of people, getting into fights at games. I'm not saying that Americans don't have that kind of violence going on, but...
What, did you see that guy?
Yeah, and exactly. And so that, like, I don't support that, and I don't denounce that, but I will say that I've been to football games in the UK, British football, where like there's been a much more of a hostile environment, and the NFL games just never feel that way. Different shirts, doesn't even, we're all going to go to the game wearing none of the correct merch to support any teams, but no one's going to care.
Well, I think it's the tribalistic nature of our football and our sports are not a lot older, but they run from deeper. It's all about like territorial, tribalistic background, which in some ways gives it more passion, but also I think it can take away a lot as well. And I think it becomes a lot less enjoyable. Even though it's more, you're more. If your team wins, it feels amazing. When the losses are so much more lower as well. Yeah. And I think with American football, it doesn't really. Although it sucks when you lose an American football game. Generally, I feel like you lost because of something, like you can see the reasons why you lost. It's never like this or that. There's always like a schematic issue or
like
a
chess.
tactical. Yeah, it's like the tactical
Literally
issue.
like chess.
You did something wrong here. There's always a stat to back up why you lost that game. Generally,
I agree completely. That's the reason kind of got into this game. You guys introduced me to it because you were like, it's the chess of sports. I'm like,
it's
really?
chess with super athletes.
And and I fully agree. I wanted to mention something. I was really looking forward to seeing Tua versus Trevor. And I have some news.
Oh, I see you've seen that. Damn it! I was hoping I could. I found that out earlier. I was hoping to reveal that to you.
He's been taken off IR.
He's been practicing.
He's going to
play.
Tua's going to play.
Tua's going to play, folks.
So we
I
were
think
gutted that
Tua's
we
going to
missed
play.
him. We were like, Jacoby Brissett. Not that I don't like. I like him.
they need to. I think now.
I think the drama is bigger with Tua.
Yeah.
He's had a turbulent career so far. I think a lot of the NFL has
Injury.
bailed on him. And I guess rightfully so in some senses, but we love an underdog, don't we? Do you know what I mean? Like, and I think, let's be honest, like the thing, going to the subject that we can talk about now, which is like who are we most excited to see, is we're all excited to see a number one overall pick, especially one with the caliber of Trevor Lawrence. Despite him playing for the Jags and despite them not having a single win yet, there's something about going there and being like, that guy has been hyped up in America for like 2 and a bit years, and now he's here, and now
that
we're
guy's
watching
been
him.
hyped up since he was in high school.
Yeah, right. So
they
it's
not
He
won a
lost
game?
2 games before he got to the NFL.
yeah. Now he's lost. And
Have
now
the
he's
Jags-
lost 4.
Have the Jags not won a game yet?
No.
Whoa, I seen them.
No, they have
picked
not.
up one
But,
somewhere.
yeah, it certainly makes it more exciting knowing now that on the other side of the ball, we're going to have a former top 5 pick into a Tagovailoa, who we were all
Fingers
excited when he
crossed.
got drafted. Yeah, fingers crossed. We don't know that for certain, but
And we all liked him and his demeanour and just how he
I
played.
like
and
Tua a lot. He reminds me a lot of like early Russell Wilson in some respect.
yeah, we just got to hope that Miami don't bail on him too soon because there's always been rumblings that they made. They bailed on offers for Deshaun Watson and yada yada yada.
Well,
but I would hope that the Dolphins would
stick with him.
Yeah, just stick with him.
But at the same time, like you've seen how Sam Darnold's done, moving away from. I'm not going to call the Dolphins nearly as bad an organisation as the Jets.
No,
but,
certainly not.
But he's thrived in Carolina.
Apart from the last game,
and
but
sometimes relationships just need to end. Like so, sometimes you just need to break and go somewhere new and do something different.
I don't know if Tua's at that point yet.
No.
I still think I think we need to give him some more games.
I wouldn't feel
'cause
bad.
He did go out injured.
I wouldn't feel bad for him if he left the Dolphins, if that makes sense, because that means someone else can really make use of him, and he hopefully will do better.
And I think a good way of saying that is that I don't think Tua is done yet, or his time is up. My worry is whether the Dolphins have sort of sped up the timeline that they were hoping for with Tua, and they will bail on him too soon. A bit like Sam Darnold, do you know what I mean? Like, because that's ultimately why Sam Darnold got out. He didn't request a trade from the Jets. The Jets were like, we'd rather start fresh. And then he's gone to Carolina and he's found promise and he's found a coach that, rates him and can see potential in him and stuff like that.
You would argue that Miami do have quite a good team.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
I mean, their defense and their special teams, like especially last year, was amazing. And I don't think they've lost many players off it. I know Xavier Howard requested a trade, but they sorted it out, didn't they?
I don't know if that's fully resolved, but he's been playing. So,
but he's the player that I'm actually really excited to see.
A great corner, yeah.
Like I love a good defense and special team as well, but like especially defense, like if they're hard hitting or like zone hawk or like or ball, just like I just love it. I love a good, especially someone like Xavier Howard. So I hope to see him have a few. Well, I mean, Trevor Lawrence has thrown a few picks this season, so maybe
I'd like to see a pick.
Maybe a pick 6 would be quite nice.
Oh, man, yeah, picks are amazing. I've seen one pick 6 in my many games that I've been to, and it's always a great feeling to watch it.
Jalen Waddle as well. Really looking forward to seeing him.
Yes, of course. I didn't think about him.
Returner, like he's pretty got live feet.
Yeah,
a man who wasn't happy about Tua.
Yeah, it's
selected.
It's a shame really that a lot of the teams, the 2 teams are so injury ridden, especially the Jags, because it's like if everyone was at full health, it's like we'd be seeing Trevor Lawrence, Tua, Jalen Waddle, Travis Etienne,
Tim Tebow.
Tim Tebow. To be fair, Tebow would have been like would have been. I don't think I would have been hyped to see him because like I certainly have. I have issues with some of the stuff he's done in his life.
Just retire.
Yeah.
It didn't work. It didn't work.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think he certainly. I thought Urban Meyer, or certainly the Jags front office, were clever about bringing Tim Tebow, building hype around him, making sure shirt sales are boosted, let him play one game. He played terribly, and they dropped him immediately. And he did a job. It was a weird job, but he did do a job.
Yeah.
Moving on to the last sort of segment, I would like to, or the penultimate segment, sorry.
Yeah.
That I'd like to get into. Building off of the Dolphins have a great defense, although they are struggling at the moment. The Jags are the underdogs, I think, in my opinion, in this game.
Yeah.
In my opinion, what do the Jags have to do, or what players are going to have to stand out and make performances to at least be competitive or try and win this game?
I think. Oh wait, you first.
No. I just said it's a tough question because
I think first of all they need to give Trevor Lawrence enough time to be able to make not like deep plays, but to give the offense enough time to kind of just be able to march down the field. I don't think their run game is good enough.
Well, they're missing their number one running back,
exactly.
Aren't they? And they haven't had him. I think he got injured before preseason.
Yeah,
Travis Etienne. So
I don't think their defense can be expected to stop the Dolphins. I don't think their defense is good enough at all. So I think they're only going to win with the shootout. I think if Trevor Lawrence has enough time in the pocket to be able to make plays, again, not expecting him, not saying he has to every time, but he needs to be given a chance to do that.
I'll jump in here. I would actually disagree with that, but I think this is for the Jags. I don't think there's been a better time to play the Dolphins because the problem I have with the Jags is obviously they're injury ridden. I sympathise with that, but I've watched quite a few of the Jags games this season. That's how desperate I am to watch NFL this year compared to years previous.
Yeah.
And as much as people have been like, yeah, he's throwing loads of picks and yada, yada, yada. If you watch those games, Trevor Lawrence is carrying that team right now. He has to make run plays, big throws, medium throws, rush for touchdowns, manage the clock. I know obviously that's the job of a QB, but it feels like he's doing all the same work that someone like, for example, Josh Allen is doing.
Yeah.
But he's doing it inside a team that consistently drops passes or doesn't, who don't make the most of blown coverages. And then on the flip side of that ball, the defense just bleed points. But before I move away from this topic, the Dolphins right now, according to ESPN, are what are they? They're bottom 5 in everything on offense. So this is a bad Jags defense, but you're playing an offense that is it's the worst it's been for a while. And then weirdly, the one that surprised me the most is the defense, apart from one stat, is bottom 5 in everything.
Dolphins.
The Dolphins defense is bottom 5 in everything, apart from one stat, which they're bottom 10. So this has not been a good Dolphins team right now. So it's like what I'm praying for as a spectator is just that like Trevor Lawrence can, have this, he can have a bit more support and he can be electric and be the player that he was in college. And also Tua come back and make that offense part. This is actually a really good time for Tua to come back in. The Dolphins suck. And they're not playing great. If Tua can come back from this injury and have a huge game against Trevor Lawrence, I think this will be the boost that he needs to sort of play. And to be honest, I'm not really bothered who wins because I don't support either team. So I just want it to be like 45-48. That's the game I want to see.
Yeah, it's a tricky one. I don't like the Jags' offensive play calling because I think I know exactly who's calling those plays because both the people on that it's Darryl Bevell and it's Brian Schottenheimer and like I know
Seahawks
literally both of them like one after another were our offensive coordinator, and they're old, outdated plays. I don't like it. It doesn't manage the clock that well. It doesn't suit a dynamic quarterback, like especially someone like Trevor Lawrence, like who can do everything. He can do everything.
So they definitely haven't changed their style. I haven't watched enough games to know.
I think they've done a bit, but like there's only so much you can do with a team.
Yeah.
They run a lot of play action, which is familiar, which is very familiar to the Seahawks.
I'd hope that like coaches moving from team to team will adjust. Like again, I you know them better than I do in the sense of they were with the Hawks, and
also they work for Urban Meyer, who will have a
style,
a scheming style, stuff like that. Speaking of Urban Meyer, do you reckon we'll see him at the tailgate getting jiggy?
I was literally going to say, is anyone going to any bars afterwards?
Keep
an eye out for Urban Meyer.
Yeah, keep an eye out.
I'm gonna keep myself away from him. If he sat down,
hey, look, he did what he did, man. Like we
he's a man of God.
We try and be cautious on the show. And we try not to bring in too many hot topics. But there's not a lot you can say about that. He got caught out doing something that he shouldn't have done. And I think, despite losing the locker room a little bit, I thought his wife was pretty sound about that. At least publicly. I'm sure he got an and absolutely bollocking.
I definitely won't tempt. I definitely won't tempt a man of God if he's sat in a seat enjoying a beer.
Well, it's clear that wasn't all he was doing. Let's just put it that way.
I just don't understand is he implying that men of God don't enjoy enjoy?
There are no consequences. That's all.
Oh, I guess. Yeah.
I think he was defending himself, being like, I like to think of myself as a man of God, and what I did is not something that a man of God would do, and I take responsibility for that.
Fair.
Which again, fair enough. He took responsibility for it, but he still did it. And I think the thing that sucked about that was it just like, you know, anytime someone is sort of displaying unfaithful behaviour, it's never nice. Yeah. But that one particularly, I was just like, it just felt so pathetic. And like, it wasn't like he was caught getting off with someone. He was just stood at a bar trying to not look like he was doing something naughty while something naughty was happening on him. And I was just a bit like, dude, like, come on.
Also,
man.
It's not the first thing he's been picked up on, like, even before, you know, on his route into being Jags head coach. He apparently had like a few coaching choices in terms of his backroom staff that were questionable. Again, off the top of my head, it was something to do with racism, I think, like a coach with some sort of incidents that happened where things were said or he was accused of things. I can't remember exactly off the top of my head what it was, who it was.
I roughly remember
but that. His judgment has been questioned a few times
already. It's just like, read the room, man. Yeah. You're an NFL coach.
And you're a decorated one. You're a decorated coach, certainly. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like you've been in the NFL 4 games, and like, you know, you've essentially lost the locker room. And the CEO or the owners of the Jags, the statement they put out about Urban Meyer was really, I thought, was very damning. Like, you know, it was obviously very well put. I mean, you can look it up. I won't quote it directly, but the language they used was very like, you know, we're just standing out against it, and we're not aligning ourselves with Urban Meyer. But to me, what I saw was, it's like, you're on thin ice, Urban. You are on thin ice now.
So, I mean, if you want, I can read it word for word. It says, so it's their owner is...
Shad Khan, right?
Shad Khan, yeah. He says, I've addressed this matter with Urban. Specifics of our conversation will be held in confidence. What I will say is his conduct last weekend was inexcusable. I appreciate Urban's remorse, which I believe is sincere. Now he must regain our trust and respect, and that will require a personal commitment from Urban to everyone who supports, represents, or plays for our team. I'm confident he will deliver. Sounds like the owner's not taking any crap.
And
going
also
forward.
And also, the thing with trust is that it's multifaceted. Yeah. So normally with coaches, you can lose your faith in a coach depending on their off-the-field behaviour, but more importantly, their on-the-field results. And they're 0-4. So he's already had the controversy pre-season, as you mentioned. He's not winning any games. It's not even like they're really competing that. It's not exciting, the Jags games to watch. Trevor Lawrence is exciting. I don't think the Jags as a team are that exciting. And now he's got this on top of it, where he's sort of, you know, it sounds like the owner's been like, you've embarrassed me and you've embarrassed our team, and I'm annoyed about that. So it's like he's on thin ice, really.
Similar but different as well. Like, again, I don't want to bring another controversy into this, but the one thing that was mentioned about John Gruden's sacking or leaving was that he was a fantastic coach. Fantastic offensive mind, worst leader of men.
Yeah, 100%. And that's important.
Some of his peers who worked with him said. And is this a similar thing? Again, I'm not suggesting that Urban Meyer isn't a good, inverted commas, leader of men. But
his judgment is questionable, certainly, based on what he's done. And leadership is so important.
That. Yeah.
You know, it comes up a lot, leadership. And I think if quarterbacks have to be great leaders and they have to show, you know, strong leadership qualities and be able to motivate and elevate a team. The coach
from the age of 21 as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, he's in his 50s.
Yeah, you know, you have to be disappointed in that behaviour.
100%.
Anyway, we'll not dwell on that for too long. The final segment, boys, are we ready to go in? It's a simple one. Score predictions. Yeah. You know, how do you think the game's going to go?
24-17 to the Dolphins.
All right, fair.
I put Jags 24, Dolphins 30. I'm hoping for a high-scoring game.
I've gone higher than both of you.
Oh, yeah.
I've gone 31-28, and I've gone it in the Jags' favour.
Oh, let's
nice.
go.
Just because,
I like it.
I don't know why, but a pundit I was watching said that he was like, when he realised the game was in London, he was like, oh, there'll probably be more Dolphins fans. No, I can't research that, so I don't know how much of a fan base they have here. The last game I went to, whether the Jags fans were there or not, the whole vibe was like, hey, be a Jags fan.
Yeah.
Please be a Jags fan. Let's go, Jags. It's a Jags game.
The Khan family who own the Jags, they own Fulham, I believe.
Oh yeah, okay. So yes, so they have, and also I think it might have been a home game for the Jags. I forget with the UK games, they technically class it as a home game for one of the teams.
Yeah,
so that
I think it's normally always a home game for the Jags. Like when they're there, I mean, because like, you know, because like Jacksonville is a college like football town originally, and then they started the team, and they're trying to still build that fan base. But when saying that, when I watched Seahawks Raiders at Wembley, like that was meant to be a Raiders home game, but like had all the the decoration of Raiders like ground, but like there was more Seahawks in there than I'd. You know, it was like a home game. Even the Seahawks players were like, it felt like a home game. Like it was so loud.
Yeah, well, the 12s are a loud bunch. I think that energy and that culture is widespread, and I think every Seahawks fan I've met has been able to embody that and to speak so passionately about it.
It's a shame that our defense can't do that right now.
Not yet.
But anyway, sorry, back to the Dolphins and Jags.
Just looking forward to it. Yeah, good game, beers, wings.
And as much as I put the Jags to
scores.
win, I hope Tua has a great game if he does play. I would love to see a real QB battle between two young prospects.
That'd be great,
because that's something as much as I've been to quite a few games, I've never seen that. I've seen Big Ben play. I've seen Deshaun Watson play, but
that was a bit of a non-game as well for me. It wasn't that.
But the Texans are a dead team.
It was a boring game, even with Watson playing. Like it was a bit of a not a boring game. It was exciting to be there, but it wasn't nothing pop.
I thought Minshew had bigger plays in that game.
Yeah.
Minshew mania, man.
Where is Minshew right now?
The Eagles got traded for a 6th round pick, but Jalen Hurts, he just beat Sam Darnold. So
why is everyone I don't want to end the podcast on this, but why is everyone having a go at Jalen Hurts? Like the Eagles aren't that good, and from what I've seen of Jalen Hurts, he can play.
Well, they just beat the Panthers, the number 1 ranked defense.
The one thing I can say is they've had a coaching change, and the coaches didn't change the QB. So they normally when there's a big sort of change in guard, you run it the way you want.
And
I like Jalen Hurts.
Mac Jones was on the board when they were drafting, so they could have taken him. Anyway, it's an NFL London special. We'll get stuck into that. Our next episode only comes out in a couple of weeks, right?
Yeah.
So for anybody going to the London games, we hope you have an incredible time. We hope to see you there. If you are interested in sort of checking out what we do and what we're going to post about, feel free to follow us on social media at Inside the 5, the number UK, and that's on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We have YouTube where we post the episodes as well.
Do we have TikTok?
Not yet. The algorithm's very important. I'm saving our first post for something special so that we blow up into the stratosphere and become a staple on Fox. But anyway, guys, thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed the game. We'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Ciao.
Or see you on Sunday. Or tomorrow.
Yes, tomorrow. Have a good one, guys.